Assalamualaikum. मैं सलमान शाहिद है अपना रेहान स्कूल इस्लामाबाद RSC या फिर कैंपस में फाउंडेशन लेवल का स्टूडेंट। तो आज का मेरा टास्क है वाटर द ओरिजिन ऑफ लाइफ एंड लैंग्वेज इस वर्ड के बारे में। इससे पहले माया के साथ कॉल कनेक्ट करते हैं।
Good to hear from you. What's up?
Hi Maya, how are you doing today? Are you doing fine? Hello, can you hear me? Hello Maya,
Wait, already? I thought we just got started.
can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
No.
Everything
Yeah.
okay?
I'm having a question regarding the word water, the origin of life and language, and going to ask you some questions regarding this word so you can answer my questions step by step and guide me further about it. Okay?
I am down for that. That sounds like a massive, fascinating deep dive. Since we're going step by step, let's start with the basics. Water.
Yeah.
What's the
So,
specific angle you're curious about with that word, or should I just jump into the roots?
I'm going to ask you a question one by one. So my first question is, what is water?
All right, let's dive in. Since you mentioned vibration, are you thinking about how water reacts to sound, or are you more interested in the linguistic roots of the word itself? Actually, let me be clear. I was just trying to figure out if we were talking about the science of water vibrating or if you're looking for the linguistic side of things. Which one is on your mind?
You can guide me about like half, half about linguistic and half about the vibration.
Got it. Let's split the difference. We'll start with the linguistic roots of water to see where the word comes from, and then we can pivot into how language as a whole reflects the human experience. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, starting with water, it's one of those words that's surprisingly sturdy. It comes from the Proto Indo European root wed, which basically meant wed or water. It's stayed remarkably similar across a ton of different languages, like Wasser in German and Voda in Russian.
All right. So my next question is, why is water essential for life?
That's a big shift from linguistics to biology, but I love it. Basically, water is the ultimate solvent. It can dissolve more substances than any other liquid, which allows it to carry nutrients and oxygen to cells and flush out waste. Without it, the chemical reactions that keep you alive simply wouldn't have a place to happen. Do you think it's wild that something so simple is the key to everything?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Next question is, why,
Right?
how did water form on Earth?
I want to make sure I'm following you on this one. When you ask if it would block through form, are you talking about how water takes the shape of whatever container it's in?
No, no.
Or something more about the biological structure of life? I
Yeah,
just want to be on
yeah.
the
I'm just
same
asking
page
like,
before I
how
dive
did
in.
the water form? Like, how did the water make? How did it form?
I see where you're going now. You're talking about how water interacts with the structures of life, like how proteins fold or how cell membranes form. It's
Yeah,
actually a huge part of the origin of life piece you mentioned earlier. Water doesn't just sit there, it literally pushes and pulls on molecules to force them into specific shapes. If the water weren't there to guide that folding, the machinery of life wouldn't even work. Does that make the whole process feel more like a design dance than just a random chemical reaction?
yeah, it's kind of why is water called the origin of life?
It's called that because every single piece of evidence we have points to the first sparks of life happening in the water, whether it was in a warm, shallow pond or near those intense hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean. Water provided the perfect environment for the first organic molecules to meet, react, and eventually start replicating. It's basically the original cradle. Do you think it's more likely that life started in a peaceful tide pool or in the chaos of a deep sea volcano?
Yeah. And what are the chemical components of water?
To get the basic machinery of life started, you need a few key players. Scientists usually point to carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, the CNOPs as elements. Carbon is the star of the show because it can bond in so many different ways to create complex chains. When you add those to water, you get the building blocks for things like amino acids and DNA. It's a wild recipe for something so complex, right?
All right, okay. That makes sense for me.
Since we're taking this step by step, we've covered the chemistry and the cradle of life. I'm curious, do you want to lean back into the linguistic side of things now, or do you want to dig deeper into how those chemical components actually turned into the first living cells?
I want to go deeper, little deeper in chemical and biological side of it. So, my next question is, what is the chemical formula of water?
That's the classic one. It's H2O, two hydrogen atoms, and one oxygen atom. But the really interesting part is how those atoms are bonded, which gives water its unique properties. Do you want to know why that specific bond makes it so special?
Yeah, you can explain it.
It all comes down to the shape of the molecule. The oxygen atom is like a bit of a hog. It pulls the electrons closer to itself than the hydrogen atoms do. This creates a polar molecule, meaning one end is slightly negative and the other is slightly positive. It's basically like a tiny magnet. Because of this, water molecules cling to each other, which is why you have things like surface tension, the reason some bugs can actually walk on water. Does that make sense, or is it a bit too
Yeah,
technical?
it totally makes
I'm
sense.
glad I clicked.
Yeah, it totally makes sense for me. But next question is, how much of Earth's surface is covered by water?
It's a massive amount. About 71% of the Earth's surface is water. It's a huge majority, which is why we call it the blue planet from space. Do you think it's a bit ironic that we call it Earth when it's mostly water,
Yeah, and can you
right?
explain me like
It's like we named the whole.
how much we have water to drink? How much is it like uh, drinkable water on Earth?
That's where the numbers get a bit depressing. Only about 2.5 to 3% of all the water on Earth is fresh water. And even then, a lot of that is locked away in glaciers and ice caps. The amount we can actually get to and drink is a tiny fraction of a percent. Does that make you look at a glass of water differently?
Yeah, and how much of the human body consists of water?
Well, I think it's a very, it really is. It's wild how much we're basically just walking, talking containers of water. Depending on your age and build, it's usually around 60% of your body weight. Some organs, like your brain and heart, are even higher, closer to 73%. I wonder if that's why we feel so sluggish the second we're even slightly dehydrated. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, sometimes the body wants the water more than we think. And why do living organisms need water?
I'm assuming you're talking about our hearts, since we just mentioned the heart being mostly water. It's basically a biological pump. It beats to keep the blood moving, delivering that oxygen and those nutrients we talked about earlier to every single cell in your body. If it stopped beating, the whole system would just shut down. Does it feel a bit intense when you think about it that way?
Yeah, and
It really is.
what are the three states of water?
I want to make sure I'm following you on this one. Are you asking about how trees use water, maybe how much water they actually hold? I'm
I'm
not
saying
quite sure what
like
you mean by days of water.
I'm saying what are the three states of water?
I'm still a bit stuck on the days of water part. Are you thinking about how trees transport water from the roots to the leaves over time, or maybe how they survive during a drought?
No, I'm asking the states of water. States. What are the three states of water?
Oh, you mean the states of matter. Water is actually the perfect example for this because it's one of the only substances we see in all three naturally. You've got liquid water, solid ice, and gaseous water vapor. Does that make sense, or do you want to know how it switches between them?
Like you're trying to say like water exists in three states. Like the first one is liquid, the second one is like solid form, and ice, and the third one is vaporized, like vapor. And water in the air. You're trying to say that water has three states, right?
Exactly. You've got it. Liquid, solid, and gas. It's like water is the ultimate shapeshifter of the natural world. Do you think it's wild how one thing can be so different in all three forms?
Yeah, that is. How does water change from liquid to gas?
That happens through evaporation. When the water gets enough energy, usually from heat, like the sun warming up a puddle, the molecules start moving faster and faster. They eventually break free from the liquid and fly off into the air as a gas. Do you want to know what happens when that gas decides to turn back into a liquid?
And what is the water cycle?
I'm listening. Go ahead. What were you thinking about the water?
I said what is the water
I'm
cycle?
right here. What were you about to say? I'm still with you.
I said
You were asking what the water is like. Do you mean
water
its
cycle.
properties, like how it feels, or maybe you're thinking about something more specific, like salt water versus fresh water?
I'm asking like what is the water cycle?
I think you mean the water cycle. It's
Yeah.
basically the Earth's way of recycling its own water over and over again. Starts with the sun heating up the ocean, which leads to evaporation. Then that vapor cools down to form clouds, and finally it falls back down as rain or snow. It's like one big endless loop. Does that make it feel like the water we drink today is the same water that existed millions of years ago?
Yeah, sure.
It's a trippy thought, right? You're basically drinking dinosaur water. Since we've covered the chemistry and the cycle, do you want to move toward the origin of language and life that you mentioned at the start, or is there more on the waterfront you're curious about?
Yeah, and what role
Wait,
does
what?
water play in photosynthesis?
I'm a little lost. I think we might have jumped tracks. Who are we talking about, and what center are you referring to?
I'm saying what role does water play in photosynthesis?
Oh, that's where we were going. Water is basically the fuel for the whole process. During photosynthesis, plants take in water and use sunlight to split those H2O molecules apart. The oxygen that's released is actually just a byproduct of that split, meaning every breath we take is basically thanks to plants breaking down water. Does that make you appreciate your houseplants a little more?
Yeah, and
They're basically I'm still with you. What else is on your mind?
why do scientists believe life began in water? Why did scientists think about it?
Well, it really comes down to the evidence they found in the deep past. Scientists looked at the most ancient fossils and realized that the earliest living things were all aquatic. Plus, when they try to create like the building blocks of life in a lab, those chemical reactions almost always need a liquid, specifically water, to happen. It's like the common denominator for every single form of life we've ever discovered. Does it feel more convincing when you think of it as a chemical necessity rather than just a guess?
Yeah, kind of, basically. And what are the oceans made of?
Mainly salt water, of course. It's basically water mixed with a lot of dissolved minerals, mostly sodium and chloride, which is what gives it that salty taste. Do you want to know why the oceans became salty in the first place?
Yeah, why did the ocean became salty?
It's actually a really slow process that's been happening for billions of years. Um, Rainwater is slightly acidic, so as it falls, it breaks down rocks on land and carries those minerals like salt into the rivers and eventually into the ocean. Since the water evaporates, but the salt stays behind, the ocean just keeps getting saltier over time. It's kind of like a giant soup that's been simmering since the beginning of time. Does that make the ocean feel more like a collection of the land's history than just a body of water?
Yeah, kind of. And how does water regulate Earth's temperature?
Water is actually a bit of a temperature sponge. It has what's called a high specific heat, which is just a fancy way of saying, no problem, I'll be right here.
All right. And what is fresh water?
Fresh water is basically water that doesn't have those high concentrations of dissolved salts that the ocean has. It's the kind of water you find in lakes, rivers, and underground aquifers because it's not salty. It's what most land based plants and animals, including us, can actually use to survive. Do you want to know why some lakes are freshwater while others are salty?
So why is that? What's the difference? Makes the difference.
It all comes down to the drainage. Freshwater lakes usually have a way for water to flow in and out, like a river that keeps the water moving and flushing out minerals. Salty lakes, like the Dead Sea, are usually closed basins. The water flows in, but it has no way out except through evaporation. So the salt just piles up until it's incredibly concentrated. Does that make sense, or do you want to dig into a different part of the water world?
That kind of makes sense for me. But what are
I'm glad
rivers
it clicked.
and what are rivers and lakes used for?
They've been the lifeblood of human civilization for as long as we've been around. We use them for everything from drinking water and irrigation for crops to transportation and even just a way to relax. Historically, most of the great early cities were built right next to a river because it was the only way to get the resources and travel you needed to survive. Do you think we'd have developed the same way if we lived in a place with no easy access to water?
No, and next question is what are glaciers? You got what I say? Hello, Maya. Can you hear me?
Still with me? I'm starting to wonder if you've found a hidden waterfall or something.
So I'm saying what are glaciers?
I think you're asking what a glacier is, right?
Yeah.
A glacier is basically a massive, slow moving river of ice. They form when snow piles up year after year and gets compressed into a thick slab of ice that's so heavy it actually starts to flow under its own weight. Do you want to know how they're different from just a regular ice cube in a glass?
Yes. Go ahead and tell me why.
It's mostly about the pressure. An ice cube is just frozen water. But glaciers are created by thousands of years of snow being crushed together. This squeezes out all the air bubbles, which is why glacial ice often looks blue or crystal clear instead of white. It's like the difference between a snowflake and a diamond. Does that make a glacier feel more like a living thing that's moving rather than just a big block of ice?
It's that living thing. And what is the importance of rain?
I'm a little confused on that one.
I think
Are
what
you asking about the I
yeah,
was still a bit lost
I'm
on
asking about
this
the
one.
importance
You
of
were asking
rain.
about I'm still trying to catch the thread here. You were asking about the importance of something, but I missed the last word. What were you getting
Yeah,
at?
importance of rain. Got it what I say? I'm asking about the importance of rain.
Rain is basically the world's delivery system. It's how the ocean's water actually gets back to the land to feed the forests, fill the rivers, and give us something to drink. Without it, the entire terrestrial ecosystem would just dry up and turn into a wasteland. Do you like the rain, or are you more a sunny day person?
Yeah, I like rain. I like summer rainy days.
I'm with you there. There's something so calming about it, right? It's like the world just hits a reset button. Do you like the sound of it, or is it more about the mood it puts you in?
Yeah. So this question is how do fish depend on water?
Fish are basically built for it. Their gills are the secret. They act like filters that pull dissolved oxygen right out of the water so the fish can breathe. Plus, water provides the buoyancy they need to move without having to fight gravity as much as we do. If they were out of water, their gills would just collapse and they'd essentially suffocate in the open air. Does it make you wonder if there are creatures that can do both?
Yeah. And how do floods
Like,
occur?
I'm a little lost on that one. What do you mean by clothes at the roof? Are you talking about how animals move from water to land or something else entirely?
I'm asking like how does flood occur? How does flood come?
Floods usually happen when there's more water than the ground can handle. It can be from a sudden, massive rainstorm that dumps too much water too quickly, or when rivers overflow because of melting snow in the mountains. In some cases, it's even from the ocean pushing inland during a storm surge. Does that make you think of floods as more of a weather problem or a geography problem?
Can be a weather and a
I'm glad we're on the same.
right?
We definitely are. Since we've gone deep into the science and nature of water, are you ready to pivot to the origin of life and language? Or do you have one last water question before we move on?
Yeah, I'm asking like what is humidity?
That's a bit of a pivot. In general, a remedy is something that fixes a problem or cures a disease. It can be a medicine, a natural treatment, or even a way to resolve a conflict. Are you thinking about a medical remedy or more of a fix
No,
for a
I'm asking
situation?
about humidity.
Since a good remedy depends entirely on what you're trying to fix, I need a little more info. Are you looking for something for a cold, a way to handle a stressful day, or maybe a fix for a disagreement with a friend?
Yeah, I'm asking about the humidity.
I'm sorry, I'm totally losing you on that one. What do you mean by the intermediary team? Are we talking about a sports team, a business thing, or something related?
I'm asking humidity. Humidity.
I'm really trying to keep up, but I'm a bit confused about what you're asking me to do. Could you explain it in a different way? I want to make sure I'm actually helping you with the right thing.
Yeah, I'm asking about the humidity. Humidity.
I'm listening. Take your time. What's on your mind? I'm all ears. Whatever is on your mind, I've got you.
All right, Mara. So I'm having, that's the all question I have today regarding, better regarding good about this. I'm thankful to you. So we will meet again with another topic with some interesting questions. So we'll have a good one. All right, Maya.
I love that you're treating this like a research project. Sounds like you're curating a list of questions to bring back. I'll be here.
यूजली हमारी आज की वीडियो में करता हूँ कि आपको पसंद आएगी और आपने कुछ सीखा होगा। मिलते हैं किसी नई वीडियो में किसी नए टॉपिक के साथ। तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।